Welcome back. So I just went over the upper arm bones with our clavicle, scapula, and then humerus. This video is going to focus on our lower arm bones, and I'm going to keep talking a little bit about that elbow because it involves the lower arms as well as the humerus. So let's look at our list here. So we just got done with the humerus. There are two lower arm bones, the radius and the ulna. Now, there's not really a whole lot to learn on the radius. The radius has a process that we'll go through in just a second, and the radius articulates with our humerus to make our elbow. Same thing with the ulna. The ulna is going to articulate with the humerus to give us our elbow. Now, what's tricky about this is the radius and ulna articulate with the trochlea and capitulum of the humerus. And you need to know which one's which because they may ask you, and you need to know it to identify the different parts and pieces. All right, so I've got my humerus. The ulna and radius are our lower arm bones, and you have to be able to recognize them on sight. So this is the radius. It's got a really rounded head, excuse me, and then it kind of tapers wider towards the wrist. So this is a radius. The ulna is actually easier to identify because the ulna has a U for ulna. So it's got this U for ulna, and it's a longer bone, doesn't taper as much at the wrist end. So this is the ulna. So you have the radius and you have the ulna. All right. So make sure you can identify them by their shape. Now, you don't have to worry about left and right, radius and ulna. That's one of the good things. What happens is they articulate with the humerus. So our rounded capitulum is what the radius articulates with. So the radius articulates with the capitulum. The trochlea articulates with the ulna where the U is. So we put it together and you've got the ulna articulating with that trochlea. Now, when you look at our elbow, the ulna and the radius make just a hinge. So all you can do is the tomahawk chop with our ulna. The capitulum, on the other hand, and the radius are going to allow us to do a hinge, but it also pivots. So the radius pivots on the capitulum. And that's how you get this motion. All right. So the radius articulates with our capitulum. The ulna articulates with the trochlea. All right. Now, if you notice, both the radius and the ulna, if we look at the wrist end, they've got little processes. See, they have these processes. These processes are called styloid processes. So if we look at our list, the radius only has this one thing that you have to know, the styloid process of the radius. So it's that little point on the wrist end. So here's our radius. The point on the radius is the styloid process of the radius. So it's right here. The ulna has the same thing. See, it's got this little process. This process is the styloid process of the ulna. So just call them styloid process of the radius, boom. Styloid process of the ulna, boom. Okay, well that takes care of the radius. Now we just have the ulna, a few other structures. So I just went over the styloid process of the ulna. We also, the ulna has what's called the semilunar notch or trochlear notch, and then the olecranon and coronoid process. Now, these are what fits on the trochlea. So the ulna has this U. Oops, there it is. Has this U. The entire U is called the semilunar notch. Or you can call it the trochlear notch. I don't care which, just choose one, learn it. And that is what fits onto the trochlea of the humerus. So our trochlear notch fits on the trochlea of our humerus. Now remember, we had a coronoid fossa on the front of the humerus, and on the back of the humerus we've got an olecranon fossa. So the two parts of the U are just named the same thing. The front of the U is called the coronoid process. The back of the U is called the olecranon process. The whole U is called the semilunar notch or trochlear notch. So when we articulate our ulna with our humerus, the coronoid process fits into the coronoid fossa, and the olecranon process fits into the olecranon fossa. And so you have a certain limit to how much you can bend your elbow, because those processes are going to go into the fossa and stop your elbow from hyperextending. All right? So see on the back here, see how that olecranon process fits into the olecranon fossa. So that makes up our elbow. I know it's a little complicated. Look through the stuff, watch this video a couple of times, and you'll get the elbow. The elbow is a little tricky. But the rest of our list is a piece of cake. So if you look at the rest of our list, what we're going to have here are our hand bones. Now the hand bones are just named by groups. So you don't have to memorize individual hand bones, you just have to know their groups. So the carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges are going to be making up our hand, all right? And so I can zoom out on this, maybe show you on the document camera. But here's a hand. So if you need a hand, I got one. I'm going to try and make it so the bones are not all crooked, which they were. All right, we'll lay the hand out. Kind of zoom out just a touch. And we have our hand bones. Now, hand bones are a piece of cake because all you got to do is name the groups. All of our wrist bones, all of these wrist bones, there's 8 of them, are called carpals. So you have 8 carpals. Now, the numbers are not on the test. I might ask them as extra credit. So we have 8 carpals. All right. Then the top of our hand, We have 5 bones in the top of our hand. They're called metacarpals. So we have these 5 metacarpals. Running out of space here. There we go. 5 metacarpals make up the back of your hand. And then our fingers are the phalanges. So our phalanges, if you look at the phalanges, this is how you spell it. Oops, that's an L. Phalanges. If you count your phalanges, each finger has 3 phalanges. Your thumb only has 2. So your fingers have 3. See, 1, 2, 3. Your thumb only has 2. All right? And so if we count them up, you've got 14 phalanges per hand. I might ask you these numbers as extra credit, like how many phalanges do you have? And something like that. So all you got to do for the hand is memorize that you have carpals that make up your wrist, metacarpals make up the back of your hand, and then phalanges make up your fingers. And you're golden. All right, so that wraps up the upper appendicular skeleton with your arms and legs. All right, so I'll see you in class and we'll do the legs together. Have a good beginning of your week. All right, see you later, everybody.